Hello everyone, welcome in my channel today. Today we are going to see log-based recovery process in database. Let's clear your concept here. So what is log-based recovery process? Okay. So as you all know that some of the time our system crashes or fails, right? So there is necessity that we have to recover from that failure. So one of the process is said to be as log-based recovery process. And this is the most common method which is used to maintain the details of modifications of a transactions in a database. So what is log-based recovery? It is a technique which is used to maintain a transaction logs to keep track of all update operation of the transaction. Okay, and here it is going to assume that only one transaction is active at a time, and whenever we write a log of any transaction, then what all are the fields inside it? We must know what are the fields that are written into the log for a transaction. Now the fields are as follows: transaction identifier, data identifier, old value, new value. Now what is transaction identifier? This tells us which transaction did the changes. Example, here the transaction is what? T1. T1 started execution, T1 read certain value, T1 did the modification. The transaction identifier here, T1 is the transaction. Data item identifier, which data item the changes have been made. What it is telling? On which data item the changes have been made. Suppose the data item is A. A is the data item which is modified by the transaction T1. Okay. Next, old value. What was the previous value of the data item being changed? Okay. New value. What is the new value of the data item after modification? So these are the four fields which comes under log of written for any transaction. One is what? Transaction identifier. Second is data item identifier, old value and new value. Now how to denote the log records? This is how we are going to denote the log records. Ti comma start, that means what? Ti has started. An example I have taken here, T1 comma start. Next, Ti comma xj comma v1 comma v2. This tells us what? Transaction Ti has performed write on data item xj, and xj has previous value v1 and new value as v2. Okay. Next, Ti comma commit, transaction Ti has committed, Ti comma abort, transaction Ti has aborted. And here see the example I have taken. Here you can see transaction T1 is there, which is performing read operation on data item A. It is updating the value A is equals to A minus 50. It is performing write operation on the data item A. Next, perform read operation on B. Updation B is equals to B plus 50, write B. How the log entries will be made for this transaction? See, T1, since transaction T1 is there, T1 started, so T1 comma start. Next, T1 comma A comma 1000 comma 950. Okay. T1 is performing modification on the data item A. Its previous value is 1000 and modified value is 950. So 1000 is the old value and 950 is the new value. Likewise here also we can say T1 comma B performing write operation on the data item B. The old value for B is what? 1000 and new value is what? 1050. Is it okay? Then T1 comma commit indicates what? T1 is committed. Next, types of log based recovery system. Okay, so is of two types, immediate and deferred. Right. Now what is immediate log based recovery method? This method is also called as immediate modification in active state or redo undo method. Okay, here we are saying what this is a method of log based recovery, and the name is immediate modification in active state or redo undo method. This method is also called as redo undo method. Okay, the log entries for this method will have both the values, new value as well as old value. Okay, as soon as write is executed, the value is written in log and immediately the value is modified in the database. It is not going to wait for the commit instruction. So basically remember here, in immediate log based recovery method, uh, it is going to have two values, new value as well as old value in the log entry. Okay. Now whenever any transaction perform any write operation, then immediately it is going to modify it into the database. It is not going to wait for the commit instruction. तुरंत, फौरन, ठीक है, फौरन फौरन वो अपडेट कर देगा डेटाबेस में. दिस इज व्हाट द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ इमीडिएट लॉग बेस्ड रिकवरी मेथड. नाउ व्हाट टू डू इन केस ऑफ सिस्टम फेलियर. अभी सिस्टम फेलियर अगर होगा तो क्या करेगा? Then it is going to check the log record. Since I have said you what redo undo method are based on the log entries, right? Then it is going to check the log record. If both the statements are found in the log records, that is t1 comma start and t1 comma commit, then it is going to redo. In the previous video I have already explained you the concept of redo. Okay, so what is redo? It is going to set the data item to the new value, right? Next, it is going to check the log record for both the statements. If only one is found, t1 comma start and not t1 comma commit, then it is going to do undo. Okay, first one is what redo, when both the statements are found into the log record, and it is going to do undo if only one statement, one log entry is found, that is t1 comma start, and it do not found t1 comma commit, then it is going to do undo. Is it okay to everyone? That's why this method is called as undo redo method. Okay, next you can see here t1, this is the transaction performing this operations, and here you can see the log entries. As I said, what for immediate modification method, here you can see there are both the values present over here. One is what old value, and the new is what new value. Okay, old value as well as new value, right? Here also for B, old value as well as new value. Is it okay to everyone? This is how the log entries will be maintained for immediate modification method. Okay, now next let's go ahead and see the example. So here you can see the example I have taken. These are the operations performed by the performed in the system, and it is having the transactions like. Now let's see the example. Here you can see a system is performing so many operations, and it is having the transactions like t1, t2, t3. Okay, and these transactions are performing certain operations. Okay, so basically here see the question is what, if immediate update with checkpoint is used, what will be the recovery procedure? Okay, what all other transactions, those will be rolled back. Okay, those can be undone, those can be redone. Okay, so very first step is what we have to draw this graph, which is showing us the checkpoint, which is showing us the transaction, which is showing us the system crash. Okay, and the graph is having, as I said, on the x-axis it is having what time, and on the y-axis it is having what transaction. The step 1 is what, which transaction has started first? T1 started, right? T1 started first. See, you can see before checkpoint T1 performed the commit operation. Before checkpoint T1 performed the commit operation. That means what? See here you can see, this is what the start point of transaction T1, and this is what the commit point of transaction T1, right? And at this particular point the checkpoint has been performed. That means what? Checkpoint, whatever modification done by T1 is permanently updated into the database. Whatever the log entries are, those are updated into the database or the secondary storage devices permanently. Okay. Now next, you can see transaction T2 started. That means what? After checkpoint, transaction 2 is started. You can see this is the start point of transaction T2. Then after that it performed the read operation, it performed the write operation, then transaction T3 has started. तो before the commitment of T2, T3 started, T3 start कर लिया, right? Next, अब क्या हो रहा है? आपका जो ट्रांजैक्शन है, ट्रांजैक्शन T2 commits, तो here you can see transaction T2 performed commit operation, right? Next, read item performed by transaction T3 on the data item D. ठीक है, on the data item D. Next, write performed by transaction T3 on the data item D. Right. अब इसके बाद हो रहा है आपका सिस्टम क्रैश. अब इसके बाद हो रहा है आपका सिस्टम क्रैश. तो here you can see this line, you can see this is showing what, representing what, the system is crash at this particular point before T3 commits. Before T3 commits, and we have to follow immediate update recovery method to find the procedure, recovery procedure. अब मैंने क्या कहा था, when I explain you the concept of checkpoint, checkpoint के पहले जितने भी ट्रांजैक्शन कमिट हो रहे हैं उनको ना हम लोग रीडू करेंगे ना अनडू करेंगे. दैट मीन्स व्हाट, हमारे लिस्ट से ये जो T1 है ये चला गया. वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू लुक टू दिस T1 बिकॉज इसका जो भी डेटा है वो परमानेंटली मॉडिफाई हो चुका है आपके डेटा सेकेंडरी स्टोरेज में. ठीक है. अब नेक्स्ट क्या हो रहा है, चेक पॉइंट के बाद दो ट्रांजैक्शन है T2 एंड T3. ठीक है, चेक पॉइंट के बाद दो ट्रांजैक्शन है T2 एंड T3. Now let's go ahead and see what happened. Step 2 is what, list of committed transaction is what, T2 and not committed transaction is what, T3. तो लिस्ट में कितने ट्रांजैक्शन आएंगे, सिर्फ दो ही ट्रांजैक्शन आएंगे T2 एंड T3. हम लोग T1 को कंसिडर नहीं करेंगे बिकॉज वो चेक पॉइंट के पहले ही क्या हो चुका है, कमिट हो चुका है. नेक्स्ट, स्टेप 3 में हम लोग क्या देख रहे हैं, हम लोग क्या एक्शंस ले रहे हैं. In immediate log based recovery process, the transaction T2 is redone and transaction T3 is undone. ठीक है, सिंस ये जैसे ही राइट परफॉर्म करता है जो भी वैल्यूज़ है डेटाबेस में मॉडिफाई होते. पर सिस्टम क्रैश होने के बाद में हमने क्या करना है, सिस्टम क्रैश होने के बाद में हमने ये देखना है कि कौन सा ट्रांजैक्शन स्टार्ट हुआ है, कौन सा ट्रांजैक्शन कमिट हुआ है. अगर दोनों भी लॉग रिकॉर्ड में मिलते हैं तो हम लोग देखेंगे कि वहाँ पे हमको रीडू करना है, राइट. फिर हम लॉग एंट्री चेक करेंगे, देखेंगे कि ट्रांजैक्शन T3 के लिए स्टार्ट है एंड उसने कोई कमिट ऑपरेशन परफॉर्म नहीं किया है. कमिट ऑपरेशन परफॉर्म होने के पहले ही सिस्टम आपका क्रैश हो चुका है. देन इस सिनेरियो में वी आर गोइंग टू अनडू दिस पर्टिकुलर ट्रांजैक्शन. आई होप दिस इज अंडरस्टूड बाय यू ऑल. नाउ लेट्स सी डिफर्ड लॉग बेस्ड रिकवरी मेथड. डिफर्ड लॉग बेस्ड रिकवरी मेथड में क्या होता है, इसको हम लोग बोलेंगे डिफर्ड मॉडिफिकेशन इन कमिट स्टेट, और इसको हम लोग बोलते हैं रीडू नो अनडू मेथड. ओके, द लॉग एंट्रीज फॉर दिस मेथड विल हैव ओनली न्यू वैल्यू. व्हेन राइट इज एग्जीक्यूटेड, the value is written in the log and it waits for some time until commit is performed by transaction and then update it in the database. Okay, next, what to do in case of system failure. Again we have to check the log records. Check log record if both the statements are found, that is ti comma start and ti comma commit, then redo. Okay, check log record for both the statement. If only one is found, that is t1 comma start and not T1 comma commit, then nothing we have to do. We have to ignore that particular transaction. We have to ignore that particular transaction because ये changes आपके database में गए ही नहीं है, because वो रुका है until the commit is performed. Okay, वो जो log entry है it is not stored into your database. ठीक है, that's why this transaction will be ignored or sometimes called as no undo. Is it okay? See, this is how you can see transaction and the log entries for the deferred modification. Okay, log entry, see here you can see this is what, this is how. ठीक है, this is how. Here T1 comma A comma just the new value, there is no old value, there is no old value. बिकॉज यहाँ पे हम लोग हमारे डेटाबेस में जब तक कमिट परफॉर्म नहीं होता है तब तक हमारे डेटाबेस में हम लोग वैल्यू लिखेंगे नहीं. ठीक है, दैट्स वाई वी आर गोइंग टू इग्नोर दैट पर्टिकुलर स्टेटमेंट when it found no commit statement. Okay, next, same example I am taking what I have taken for the immediate update. Here you can see step 1 and step 2 are same. Step 1 and step 2 are same. checkpoint is there, crash is there. जो ग्राफ हम लोग ने वहाँ पे बनाए थे वही ग्राफ हम लोगों ने यहाँ पर बनाए हैं. T1 है आपका, स्टार्ट हुआ है, कमिट हुआ है, फिर चेक पॉइंट है. T2 स्टार्ट हुआ है, कमिट हुआ है. T3 स्टार्ट हुआ है लेकिन कमिट नहीं हुआ है, फिर सिस्टम क्रैश हो रहा है. अब इस केस में हम लोग करेंगे क्या? स्टेप 2 भी सेम है, हमारा लिस्ट में आएंगे, लिस्ट ऑफ कमिटेड ट्रांजैक्शन एंड नॉट कमिटेड ट्रांजैक्शन. स्टेप 3 में हम लोग क्या लिखने वाले हैं? इन डेफर्ड लॉग बेस्ड रिकवरी प्रोसेस द ट्रांजैक्शन T2 इज रीडन. सिंस हमने उसके लिए दोनों स्टेटमेंट देखे हैं, स्टार्ट एंड कमिट, इसके लिए उसको हम लोगों ने रीडू किया, राइट. एंड व्हाट टू डू फॉर T3? T3 is just ignored or do nothing in the deferred log based recovery process. Okay, जब दोनों देखेगा स्टेटमेंट लॉग एंट्री में स्टार्ट और कमिट तभी वो रीडू करेगा. अगर सिर्फ स्टार्ट देख रहा है और कमिट को नहीं देखेगा देन जस्ट वी हैव टू इग्नोर दैट पर्टिकुलर ट्रांजैक्शन. कुछ करो ही मत वो ट्रांजैक्शन को. इट इज़ ओके टू एवरीवन. तो दिस आर द टू टाइप्स इन लॉग बेस्ड रिकवरी मेथड, दैट इज immediate and the second one is what? Deferred. Very important topic. Thank you for watching my video. Please like, share and subscribe my channel.